Hello, it's Dr. Teresa Joyce, occupational therapist and director of People's Occupational Therapy. So, some of you might be here from TikTok, some of you might be here from Instagram, but now I'm starting YouTube, which is a really exciting opportunity because it means I can talk for even longer and actually answer the questions that you have in enough detail that is necessary to actually give you the quality answers that you deserve. So I thought that in that spirit, what we could do is answer some of the common questions that I have been getting. So let's get into it. Question one is what something that makes a lot of sense. What is occupational therapy? So I've got a video tagged here below, if I manage to work out how to do that, which explains what occupational therapy is in about 6 minutes. But I'll try to explain it in less than 6 minutes here. So occupational therapists are interested in supporting people to be able to do the things that they need and want to be able to do. And we group these things into things that you do to look after yourself, which we call self care. Things like washing your hair, brushing your teeth, organizing your shopping for the week. We're also interested in things that you do to be productive. And if you are a child or young person, this might be the things that you're doing for school, like handwriting, typing, writing assignments. If you're at university, this might also be writing more in depth assignments, as well as doing sort of the independent learning that is required at university. And then as we transition to young adulthood, so up to the age of 25, which is who I work with, I work with people from the ages of 0 to 25, then you might start looking at employment and supporting people into employment and supporting their employer to be able to support them within a supportive environment. Wow, that was a lot of the word support. But it's important here to show and acknowledge that occupational therapists don't just work with people from the age of 0 to 25. We work with people across the lifespan, but I am interested in and work with people from the ages of 0 to 25. And people might have challenges in completing these activities for a number of reasons. So, this could be because of poor mental health, poor physical health, or because of a neurodevelopmental disorder, for example, like autism. And we, as occupational therapists, come in and we do a combination of three things. We work with the person to support and develop their skills so that they're able to do the things that they need and want to be able to do. We can also look at, assess, and change the environment so that the environment can enable them to do the things that they want to be able to do. So we work out what in the environment might be a barrier and what might be supporting them, and we try to limit the barriers and we try to bring in the things that are very helpful. And we can also look at the occupation, the task itself that people are trying to do, and see if we can change that task to enable performance to happen. So it might be, for example, that the task at the moment is just way too hard, like it's not within the realms of possibility. So we bring that down, we pitch it at a level that is achievable, and then we build up and scale up from there so that eventually we're getting to the level we want to be at. But at the moment, we're still engaging in the task, even if it's not at 100% the level that we do want to be at in the future. Okay, question two. How do you become an occupational therapist? So, this is an excellent question because I love recruiting people to become occupational therapists. And I think that if you are interested in working with people, you're interested in a job that has a lot of change, is very dynamic, you're not doing the same thing every day, and you can be quite creative. You might be interested in art, you might be interested in science, you might be interested in both. This is a job that you are going to love. So, there are a few routes into occupational therapy. You can do a pre registration undergraduate course. So, if you don't have a degree already, you can do a 3 year full time undergraduate course. And then at the end, you are able to register with the Healthcare and Professions Council and become an occupational therapist and work in the UK. There is also another route where if you have a related degree, so if you have a degree in psychology, biology, a number of other fields that can be related, you can do a pre registration postgraduate course. So you can do a master's course. And again, you can do that full time. And rather than 3 years, this takes 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, you're able to register again with the Healthcare and Professions Council. I'm going to say now, so I don't have to keep repeating this, the Healthcare and Professions Council is who is in charge of the registrations of occupational therapists. So to be able to call yourself an occupational therapist, this is a protected title. If somebody calls themselves one and they are not registered with the Healthcare and Professions Council, then they are committing an illegal act, and that's not allowed. So to be able to call yourself an occupational therapist, you need to have completed a registered course, and then you need to register with the Healthcare and Professions Council, who check that you have got all of the requirements to fulfill that profession, and that you continue the requirements as you continue with your registration. So you have to re-register every 2 years and prove that you're doing what we call continued professional development. So these are 2 routes in, which are both full-time. Excitingly, some new routes have popped up since 2019, and I have lectured on both the full-time course as well as on these courses as well. And the experience is different, but the quality is the same. There's no difference in the type of occupational therapist that you're going to get from this type of training to the traditional training. So the other route is called an apprenticeship, and in this you have an employer, and you can work with your employer alongside an occupational therapist. So you might be working as an occupational therapy assistant, or you might be doing a support work role where you're working for more than just occupational therapy. You might be working for speech and language therapy as well, for example, but you have to be working alongside an occupational therapist at some point. And then you come to university, and again, you can either come and do the undergraduate course if you don't have a degree already, and this takes 4 years. So you work in some courses, the courses I've worked on, you work 4 days a week and you come to university 1 day a week, and you do that for 4 years. There are other courses that structure things slightly differently, so you might want to look into the different universities available to you if you're interested in apprenticeship. And then there is also a master's level apprenticeship where, again, in the course I teach, you're at work 3 days a week, and then you come to university 2 days a week, and then you graduate after 2 years. So these are the different routes available to you to become an occupational therapist. Okay, the third question for me is, you do university tips. How does this fit in with being an occupational therapist? Great question. So I am an occupational therapist, and I also am a qualified higher education lecturer, teaching fellow, researcher, and I have accreditation fellowship with the Higher Education Academy. So that gives me some specialist skills on top of being an occupational therapist. But it still fits within the remit of occupational therapy because I work with people from the age of 0 to the age of 25. So a lot of people from the age of 18 to 25 are in higher education. And one of the main occupations that they're doing is attending university. So providing advice and support for those attending university, it falls within the remit of occupational therapy, because the types of advice and support I give you are about how to manage and sustain your mental health while you're at university, how to cope with a lot of the demands that are coming at you, how to pitch some of the work that's coming your way so that you get that just right level of challenge that we were talking about earlier. So, for example, you don't sit down on the first day of your course and try to tackle writing the entire assignment that you have to do, but you can break it up into manageable chunks. And then when we think about the actual assignment you have to do at the end, that again is an occupation. And I can talk to you, and I do talk to you on other platforms, about how to decode some of the phrasing, how to plan that, what critical analysis is, what a reflection is, and how you might go about using your own skills to do this piece of work. So this is why this falls into the remit of occupational therapy. So that's why I talk about university tips, but it's also why people that follow me for university tips might be like, why is she talking about toilet training? But it's because toilet training is a really important occupation for young children and their parents. And they both fall within this very broad umbrella of occupational therapy. Okay, and the last question I'm going to answer today is, why did you start your company, People's Occupational Therapy? I like this question, obviously. So I started People's Occupational Therapy because I really wanted to be able to provide the best possible service for the children and young people I work with. And I wanted that service to be based on evidence that's up to date and for that to be embedded in practice from the very beginning. Because research tells us that there is a 20-year gap between evidence coming out and that being implemented into practice. So many of the services that are currently up and running are actually engaging in therapeutic practices that are not utilizing the most up to date evidence. So, what I wanted to do is make sure that I was starting a practice, and anybody I brought on board as well was following the procedures and the training that I outline at the beginning to ensure that everybody that comes to use our service is getting what works now. So, People's Occupational Therapy has two main routes to it. Maybe three. I can talk about the third in a second, but the two main routes are the first route is working directly with schools. And when working with schools, rather than doing individual work with one on one children and pulling them out of the context of their environment to work on individual skills, the way that People's Occupational Therapy will work with schools is supporting teachers and educators and schools to look more inclusively at their environment, at their teaching, and support them to be able to build in inclusivity into what they're doing from the beginning. Because one of the challenges that teachers have at the moment is the fact that they have such a wide variety of need within their classroom, and they have one fixed and very specific and traditional curriculum, and therefore they're spending hours and hours and hours trying to differentiate the curriculum for 5, 6, 7 students in their classroom who need slightly different things. But actually there are ways that we can think about the curriculum a little bit more flexibly that stops this workload of having to differentiate the curriculum for every individual student, because you inbuild that flexibility within the curriculum. The other things we can do is look at the environment, because we are skilled in environmental adaptation and performance analysis. So we can work out why somebody might be struggling to engage in a certain occupation within the classroom. And we can make adaptations and support teachers to be able to see these things themselves. So that's where we would spend the majority of our time in schools, at this level that we call the universal level. The next level that we would spend some of our time at schools in is at the targeted level. And this is looking at occupations that occur in schools, like things like handwriting, for example. And there might be children that, even with the universal strategies there, they're still finding that a little bit challenging. So we can come in and support schools to be able to implement small groups with targeted practice based on evidence that will support these children to get up to the level that they need to be able to get up to. And we can also work with teaching assistants and other people in the schools to be able to run these groups independently, so it doesn't require us to be there running them. And then the third level that we can work at in the schools is a very specialist level. And this is where a very small amount of practice will happen. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning, that traditional occupational therapy service often have all of their practice at this level. So this is when you might have a child who, despite the universal and targeted strategies, is still having a little bit of challenge. But the amount of children at this level is now decreased hugely. So you might still work with them a little bit one-on-one to support them to develop the skills that they need. So that's the schools-based service. Then the second main branch of the business is working directly with children, young people, and their families, if it's appropriate for their families to be involved. If you are 23, 24, 25, and you don't want your family to be involved, that you don't have to. But what we do want to work with is with you on occupations that are important to you, but importantly in the context at which they occur. Because again, a lot of services have clinics, and the clinics are very artificial environment, and you're working on skills in this very artificial environment, and the transfer of those skills over to where you actually need to do them is very limited. So evidence is telling us we need to be going to people's actual environments where they want to do these things and supporting them to be able to do them there. The other way that we can support people within this one-to-one service is through coaching. So coaching is a type of intervention where you really are centering and understanding the importance that the person that's coming to you, the knowledge that they have of themselves, their life, the things that work and don't work, but they might have a little bit of challenge actually knowing that they know all of these things. So, what you do is you have a series of transformative conversations, and they really are. It seems like a ridiculous word, but they are transformative conversations where you work with somebody to set goals for themselves and to think about how they're going to achieve these goals. And then you meet back together and you reflect back on the week and what has occurred. There can be a very small amount of the therapist transmitting their knowledge to the person that they're working with. For example, giving a small bit of advice on something like something we call sleep hygiene. However, this is very small. It's only about 20% of the time, and it's only if specifically invited. And then the third part that I said is sort of there, but not there because I haven't yet developed it fully yet, is going to be a range of training resources that people can buy, that's going to take them through courses that will happen online, but asynchronously. Asynchronously just means basically what this YouTube video is, where you're not live at exactly the same time together, and people will be able to work through sort of courses of things on their own. And this can be for schools, it can be for parents, or it can also be for professionals who want to learn a little bit more about a specific area. Part of that is also free resources that I give out as well, like, for example, making these YouTube videos, or there are downloadable resources that are on the People's OT website as well. Okay, so I'm getting ever so slightly more comfortable with this YouTube thing. And I am really keen to make more videos and to improve because, as we say in occupational therapy, the only way to actually improve in things is to practice that specific thing. So, for me to get better at YouTube, I'm going to have to make more YouTube videos. So, please send me your questions. These can be more about sort of general occupational therapy and the people's occupational therapy business, or they can be specifically about areas within self care, productivity, or leisure that you are finding a little bit challenging and you want a little bit of support with, whether that's writing university assignments, managing your workload at university, whether that's supporting your child to be able to do up their shoelaces or pack their bag independently for school, or whether it's trying to get your child to eat a wide variety of food because they are a toddler and they're finding that really challenging. I can support you with those through these question and answer sessions. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, like and subscribe because it helps me know that there are people out there listening and finding this valuable.